Now over to international news. President Trump is outlining a new strategic vision for Greenland, dialing back threatened tariffs on European allies as questions grow about U.S. influence in the Arctic.
At the same time, speaking from Davos, the president unveiled what he's calling the Board of Peace. It's a move that comes amid strained relations with key Western partners. NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu was at that launch in Davos, and we now go to her in Zurich for those details.
President Trump telling reporters aboard Air Force One that the timeline of that Greenland framework deal is, quote, infinity and forever. And he says this is something he discussed with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Davos, and that the deal is still being negotiated, but that the timeline for it would be long term. This is coming just a day after President Trump called off those threatened tariffs on European nations over his potential acquisition of Greenland. And on the emerging deal, President Trump now says that the U.S. military will have total access to the island and that it will come at no cost.
Well, I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland.
He says the deal will also allow the U.S. to install part of his Golden Dome, a multi-billion-dollar missile defense system on the island, citing that missile accuracy will improve with part of the dome on Greenland's strategic location.
So the Golden Dome will be on Greenland?
A piece of it, yes, and it's a very important part because it's everything comes over Greenland. If the bad guys start shooting, it comes over Greenland.
What if, God forbid, I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, but what if a foreign country launched a missile at the United States of America? We would need control over the Arctic in order to shoot that missile down. Our entire missile defense system depends on that Arctic security. Meanwhile, the Chinese and the Russians and even the Danes who control Greenland admit that they want to control that facility.
Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice.
President Trump's also urging the necessity of tariffs for national security and identity, framing his tariff strategy as a way to keep foreign influence at bay without cost to the U.S. consumer.
If they think that, like, the Chinese have inelastic supply to the U.S., so they're going to just keep dumping their stuff no matter what, then they really, really care about the tariffs. And so the fact that countries move so much when the president threatens tariffs says something about, like, who's bearing the tariff, right?
This while he touts his America First economic agenda ahead of the midterms, while saying some Western allies have lost their way.
China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe.
We're going to reward companies for investing in the United States of America and penalize companies for trying to invest in communist China and places all over the world.
Meanwhile, the president unveils the Board of Peace on his last day in Davos, a day after blasting European leaders for policies he says led to vulnerability to hostile adversaries. 19 board members joined President Trump on stage in Davos, including world leaders from Argentina, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, the president notably having brokered a major peace deal between the latter two countries last year.
They're friends of mine, I think. Let me see. Yeah, every one of them is a friend of mine. This board has the chance to be one of the most consequential bodies ever created.
He says the board will start with a focus on rebuilding Gaza before looking globally.
And the President of the United States is a president of action. It is our destiny if we put the time and the effort that it requires, as I know this board will do. But I also think it will serve as an example of what's possible in other parts of the world. Without losing focus on what's before us now, this is what's possible for other places and other conflicts that seem impossible to solve right now.
And after that Board of Peace meeting, President Trump then met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, the White House saying that that meeting lasted around an hour. President Trump then telling us right after the meeting that it was good, and Zelensky then saying that the first trilateral meeting between Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S. will happen in the UAE on Friday. Meanwhile, President Trump won't be in the White House for long, as he's expected to set off for Iowa Tuesday to give a speech there on the economy and energy. Reporting from Zurich, Mari Otsu, NTD News.